So, good day, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this refresher course in creating resilient and smart cities using nature-based solutions in Southeast Asia. So, I am Maria Catriona Devanadera, an associate professor at the Department of Community and Environmental Resource Planning, College of Human Ecology, University of the Philippines, Los Baños. So the lecture is entitled Nature-Based Solution for Water Management. The outline of presentation includes introduction, some examples of NBS for water management, and the ways forward. So what are nature-based solutions? As defined by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, NBS are actions that address the societal challenges through the protection, sustainable management, and restoration of ecosystems, benefiting both biodiversity and human well-being. They use the power of nature and functioning ecosystems as infrastructure to provide natural services to benefit the society and the environment. NBS also has the great potential to address global challenges such as climate change, economic and social development, human health, food and water security, disaster risk reduction, ecosystem degradation, and biodiversity loss. It also provides long-term environmental, societal, and economic benefits, such as adaptation to climate change, green jobs, community resilience, health benefits, health and accessible food, clean air and water, disaster risk reduction, ecosystem integrity, and biodiversity net gain. NBS for water resources management involve the planned and deliberate use of ecosystem services to improve water quantity, quality, and to increase resilience to climate change. Typically, this is adopted in conjunction with conventional water infrastructure to bring about a more sustainable outcome. Water cycle is a central element that influences the landscape around us. As defined by the UN Water Development Report, they identified that soil, vegetation, and wetlands play a major role in the movement of water cycle. Vegetation cover reduces damage caused by heavy rain by slowing runoff, thus reducing soil erosion and the related pollution, mitigating the impact of flash floods, and replenishing groundwater. Wetlands. Wetlands hold water back. Their rich plant diversity takes up excess nutrients and filters out suspended solids, and the floodplains accept large volumes of water during extreme events, delaying or buffering impacts downstream. Nature-based solution, as mentioned, is coupled with the built infrastructure, is a more cost-effective and sustainable solution. The business as usual scenario, or using the traditional engineering infrastructure, water infrastructure, is no longer enough to address many of the world's water challenges. NBS for water management should be a priority now. Nature-based solutions benefits water management through water supply regulation, through water quality regulation, and it can also help in extreme climate events. There are three main ways that NBS can be harnessed by water managers. So these are using and protecting natural ecosystems, restoring ecosystems, and creating new ecosystems. The many social, economic, and environmental benefits of increased attention to protecting and enhancing environmental services through nature-based approach are illustrated in protecting key ecosystems from degradation, has obvious benefits for environment and biodiversity, but can also contribute to improved livelihoods, such as in farming, fishing, tourism, social amenities, such as biofuel and recreation, and well-being. For restoration or restoring full ecosystem function to degraded environments can enhance livelihood opportunities, improve resilience to extreme climate events, and provide a social amenity. Extension. Creating new or enhanced ecosystem services for specific water-related services can result in new livelihood opportunities such as in forestry, agriculture, and fishery, and recreational opportunities, increase biodiversity, and enhance protection from extreme climate events. So there are levels and types of engineering innovation of biodiversity and ecosystem. So these are the type 1, which is considered as no or minimal intervention in ecosystems with objectives related to maintaining or improving delivery of ecosystem services within and beyond the protected ecosystems. An example are the mangroves used for coastal protection or the forestry restoration or conservation. Type 2, the extensive or intensive management approaches that develop sustainable multifunctional ecosystems and landscapes to improve delivery of ecosystem services related to conventional interventions. Examples would be the innovative urban green parklands or the sustainable and multifunctional landscapes of managed ecosystems. The type 3 is the highly intensive ecosystem management or the creation of new ecosystems such as the green buildings or some artificial and novel ecosystems. In the type 1 NBS, it includes protection and conservation strategies, urban planning strategies, and monitoring strategies. Type 2 comprised of sustainable management practices, while type 3 are the most visible solutions. So some examples of NBS application are for protection, restoration, and sustainable use of forest landscape, which secures water supply, erosion control, and risk reduction. Providing space for rivers to naturally flow enables flood protection and water security. The sustainable management of agroforestry and systems offers food security, water regulation, economic and social development. Protection, restoration, and management of wetlands provide water, storage, flood protection, and food production. Under the wetlands, there is also the constructed wetlands, wherein it is used to treat wastewater that may come from stormwater, domestic wastewater, and the likes. There are types of NBS for water management. So we have the reconnecting rivers to floodplains. So floodplains are areas of low-lying land alongside rivers that have developed over time to receive water that overflows the river course, slowing the flow and thus reducing flood risk. The forest. Trees and other vegetation in the catchment intercept rainfall and increase infiltration, thus moderating both runoff into the river system and storage of water in the soil. The ability of soils in forest areas to store water and release it through seepage, transpiration, and evaporation helps to regulate the water supply in the catchment. Soils and vegetated land. Maintaining good soil structure and vegetation cover has benefited for farming on every scale, from large-scale irrigation to rain-fed smallholder systems. Riparian buffers. These are vegetation, often forested areas next to streams, rivers, lakes, and other waterways, protecting aquatic environments from the impacts of surrounding land use. The wetlands. So it has a very broad but normally refers to shallow vegetated water bodies, swamps and marshes, or areas that may periodically be dry, varying in size from a few meters to many square kilometers. The water regulation services provided by wetlands are often cost competitive and more sustainable than those provided by conventional infrastructure solutions. At the same time, providing a wide range of socio-economic benefits. Under the nature-based solutions in growing cities, or the concept of water-sensitive urban design, or the sponge cities, which uses green roofs, tree planting, bioretention and infiltration, permeable pavements, water harvesting, foresting urban catchments and uplands, and drainage systems with reed beds and ponds. As provided by the UN Environment Program in the Green Infrastructure Guideline for Water Resource Management, they have identified that different structure for water supply, water quality, and moderation of extreme events. So you can use this reference to be able to look for these green infrastructure solutions for water resource management. So what are the samples of NBS for water management? Number one is the New York City, or the NBS for watershed protection. So it is one of the few cities in the US that can provide nearly all of its tap water without relying on expensive filtration plants. So this is because of the healthy, forested, and intact upstream watershed, the Catskill Mountains. The city would have invested more than $10 billion in new water filtration facilities and another 100 million annually for operational costs, and everyone's water bills would rise significantly if Catskill Mountains is not protected and managed well. This is also one of the best known and documented examples of the implementation of the nature-based solution for watershed protection, which was initiated in 1997. It is also one of the first recognized successful payment for ecosystem services schemes, which is a financing scheme to support the upstream community or farmers coming from the incentives of the water user. Now, three protected watersheds provide New York City with largest unfiltered water supply in the USA, saving the city more than 300 million US dollars per year on water treatment operation and maintenance costs. So the payment for ecosystem services scheme provides incentives to landowners. It's either monetary or otherwise, or to landowners or farmers in exchange for the sustainable land use practices. Those who benefit from environmental services, such as the water utility, should pay for their provision. Usually, the upstream or the landowners or the farmers are provided with incentives in order to ensure their continued production. Another one is the landscape restoration to improve water security in Rajasthan, India. So restoration or strengthening of social and local governance structures is as important as physical infrastructure in achieving sustainable local water management. So this is led by the women in and an NGO in Tarun Bharat Sangh, which the activities include small-scale water harvesting structures combined with the regeneration of forests and soils. Another one is the example of water security or the water infrastructure solutions in Kenya. So the WISE Up aimed to tackle these challenges by demonstrating the application of nature-based solutions for climate change adaptation and sustainable development for Volta and Tana River basins of West East Africa. So the NBS interventions are gray-green infrastructure and the combination of dams and floodplains. So the outcomes are flood risk management, regulating downstream water quality and quantity, and climate change adaptation. Examples of policy shift also include the establishment of African Collaborative Center for Earth Sciences, establishment of framework for action on climate change in Kenya, and the execution of the National Climate Change Act implemented in the National Adaptation Plan and Green Economy Strategy, and the formulation of county integrated development plans. So the next example is the China's sponge city concept, initiated by the central government of China for the purpose of improving water availability in urban settlements. So this is a combination of NBS and gray infrastructure to retain urban runoff for eventual reuse. So the target is to absorb 70% of rainwater and reuse through improved water permeation, retention and storage, purification and drainage, and as well as water saving and reuse. So it is also another example is the Shenzhen Sponge City transition. So using the Shenzhen's peri-urban wetlands. So sample number 5 is the water-sensitive urban design in Singapore and Vietnam. So it is by integration of water cycle management with the built environment through urban planning and design. So it's also an ecosystem-based adaptable concept for long-term urban planning and mimics the water balance of nature. So water-sensitive urban design tools include vegetated swales, wetlands, bioretention basins, or artificial lakes, rain garden, green roofs, permeable pavements, infiltration wells, and cleansing biotopes. So these are some of the applications of WSUD or WISUD in car parks, roads, open spaces. And then this is the Ang Mo Kio Park in Singapore under the Active, Beautiful, Clean Waters program of Singapore. And then we have also the water sensitive urban design in Vietnam. So the last example is the Green Filters Project Philippines. So the project site is at the Green Village in Calauan, Laguna. So it is in partnership with the Life Project for Youth and funded by the Global Nature Fund. So it is spearheaded by the Society for the Conservation of Philippine Wetlands. So domestic wastewater is being treated by the constructed wetlands treatment system, harnessing the power of vegetation, microbes, and filtering materials. So you will learn more about the success story of another case sample in the Philippines, which is the Bayawan City in using NBS for wastewater management. So NBS implementation in Southeast Asia needs collaborative partnership and between the academic, professional, policymakers, civil society, and other stakeholders. It should be also integrated in different forms of knowledge, such as big data, scientific theory, socio-demographic information, and practice-based technical knowledge. And an exploration of novel financing models should also happen. So under the UN Water of 2018, so how do we accelerate the uptake of NBS? So we have to have the leveraging of financing, the climate and green bond, the payment for ecosystem services, and then the enabling the regulatory and legal environment, and of course, the leveraging international and global framework. So a framework that is suited for national policies and laws should integrate NBS. So each of these should be interpreted in the relevant national regulations and policies that influence decision-making at the provincial and local scale and involve mainstreaming NBS. So we also have the enhancing intersectoral collaboration and harmonizing policies, and of course, the improving knowledge base. Under the International Water Association, there are some priorities that should be focused, which are enumerated under the technical base, finance, and governance. So it should also start from creating business cases for NBS and revising current governance model. So these are some of the references that you can refer to if you want to know more about the details in this lecture. So work with nature, NBS for water management. Thank you for listening.